Okay, all right. You've landed on Island 49. I'm your host, Weston Smith. Y'all know what time it is. It is a little bit more than 24 hours away from the 49ers Week 7 matchup on Monday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings. Before I kick off the show, always want to give a shout out to anybody who's tuned in. Landon, it's almost bedtime, buddy, but I see you and I'm waving to you. I hope you enjoy the show tonight. That being said, 49ers, like I said, just taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, coming off of the loss against the Cleveland Browns, defeating in so many ways, especially on the injury front. But like all things in the NFL, it goes on, right? So here we are, another week, get an added day of rest with the Monday night matchup. Like always, what do we expect? What do I expect? What are you guys expecting? Please chime in, leave your comments. Make sure you like the video, subscribe. Find me on We're Talking Football on YouTube. Obviously, we're gonna branch off in a little while, and we're gonna get Island 49 its own YouTube page in short order as well. That being said, let's talk about this matchup. I think the thing that looms most large is going to be the injuries that both teams are facing kind of walk into this game. I'll start with the opponent. So the Minnesota Vikings are going to be minus arguably the biggest playmaker in the NFL in Justin Jefferson, and another defensive piece in Marcus Davenport. So those two names hurt. I think that makes Minnesota's offense, especially with JJ, pretty stale and pretty stagnant, especially the way that they have not been able to effectively run the football so far in the 2023 season. And then for the 49ers, things look grim. No Deebo. We just found out with the hairline fracture in the shoulder, so he's going to be out through the bye week. Best case scenario. Let's hope for the best case scenario here. You have Trent Williams, who is listed as doubtful. I don't have another word, but I doubt he goes, right? I think he aligns well with the doubtful tag. And then you have Christian McCaffrey with a tear in his oblique, a slight tear, has been practicing, is officially listed as questionable, and for all intents and purposes is actually expected to suit up for this game on Monday night, which to me is insane. Acidine. I understand the guy's a uber competitor. I understand there are consecutive touchdown game streaks on the line, but let's put this into perspective. What's really on the line in this game is a win or a loss. Either or is not going to make or break the season. But further injury to number 23 very well could make or break this season. I just happen to think that the 49ers have more playmakers on both sides of the football without Christian McCaffrey, without Deebo Samuel. You still got Brandon Ayuk. You still have George Kittle. You still have Mason. Elijah Mitchell, if he comes to form. Love what Ray's doing. Want to see Ronnie get a shot. I just think they are more talented than the Minnesota Vikings, and not necessarily sure that this is the best way to go about the whole Christian McCaffrey injury. I mean, he is the Super Bowl or not. I don't know how else to put that. I mean, that's how dynamic he's been since he's joined this team, what he's done so far this season. We were talking about this guy arguably winning the award that is traditionally reserved for quarterbacks in this league, the most valuable player, and yet we kind of want to rush him out after he missed 3/4 of the game last week. So I don't know, but those are two things to consider. Both teams are without and potentially without significant contributors to their team. I think it's good news for the 49ers. I know Dre Greenlaw still listed as questionable, but I think he'll absolutely be back and suited up for this game. So what do we expect on the field? Well, I expect the 49ers want redemption from their performance last week. I think this game has very little to do with at least in the 49ers' minds, very little to do with the Minnesota Vikings, and a lot to do with how they're just going to want to go in, impose their will, and dictate the flow of this game on both sides of the ball. Traditionally, the San Francisco 49ers, we always call it bully ball, right? That's what they play. They control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Last week against Cleveland Browns, that did not happen. I think we talk about styles make fights and matchups, etc. They match up significantly better against the Minnesota Vikings along the front on both sides, more so than they did the Cleveland Browns. So I think they want to get back to that winning formula, especially if the Deebo injury proves to be significant in the sense like maybe they struggle to move the ball through the air a little bit more and they want to rely heavily on that ground game. I think they're going to try to kind of establish that right out of the gate, whether it's with McCaffrey, whether it's with Mason, Mitchell, TDP, like they're all going to get an opportunity here. So that's what the 49ers are going to want to do. They're going to want to run the football, but I also think there's an arrogance about this offense that's going to say, you know what? Last week against a really good defense in the Cleveland Browns that matched up against us really well, man for man, we want to prove the doubters wrong. We want to get confidence built back into number 13. So maybe they want to come out and air it. If it's me, I want to come out and I want to establish what has made this team very impactful over the last few seasons. Run the football, smash the other team in the mouth. But this is a Kyle Shanahan-led offense. I wouldn't be surprised if they start throwing the ball 4 out of the first 5 or 6 offensive plays in this game. It's just a funny league. Keep everybody on their toes, keep them guessing. Really think they need to find a way to make a much more conscious effort to get George Kittle the football. 1 target, 1 reception last week. That's not going to cut it in a game like that. That was really murky and gritty. It's a guy who's really physical with the ball in his hands, especially after Deebo goes out, like kind of a bit of a tone setter. Why are you not trying to find him more? When you go back and watch the film, it's not that they're keeping him into block as like the 6 extra linemen, which they have done time and time again, especially if the line is nicked up. It's just more of the play call and where he is in the progression. And in that game in Cleveland, Brock just didn't have enough time to get through the progression, right? There were very few plays called that 85 was the number 1 target, right? Or the number 1 check, if you will, in that game. Just didn't happen. So I would expect to see a little bit more of that. I'm sure Brandon Ayuk is licking his chops thinking, okay, no Deebo. I'm definitely going to he's going to get his opportunities for sure. Hope he does. Carry him on a couple fantasy teams. Number 11, I want to win the game, but if you can rack up some points while you're doing it, bless you, sir. Then it's more about who's going to fill the Deebo void. I mean, all intents and purposes, you got to believe it's Ray McCloud. Just he's on the field more. He's involved in the game more. He's definitely had some impact plays while he's been out on offense. But I also think this is an opportunity to start to acclimate Ronnie Bell a little bit more. I mean, the guy looked really good in preseason, looked really physical. I know he's blocking downfield, checking all the boxes that Kyle is going to want him to check. Do we see a little bit more of him, especially some bubble screens and things like that? Like get some field in front of him, let him be moving with a head of steam and just play kind of physical football, like the Yak brothers. We were all ranting and raving about how he seemed part of that fraternity based on the way he played in the preseason. So I think if you're thinking about the 49ers offense, if it's me, relying heavily on the run. Don't even care who the running back is. I just want this to be a physical. I don't even care if we're looking real good out of the gate. Like I just want to commit to the run. I want to commit to a physical brand of football. I think that will mitigate the loss of Trent Williams, who I do not expect to play in this game, even more so. Just push him back, 4 yards a clip. And you can't abandon it. Unless obviously this game flow goes completely south. Totally different ball game, but I don't expect that to happen at all. Defensively, I mentioned how the Minnesota Vikings are minus Justin Jefferson. I mean, that is a significant blow to this offense. And the reality is they haven't been able to run the football all year with Madison. I know they brought in Cam Akers. I just don't expect that to continue. I think I saw a stat watching the games today, which, by the way, can we just comment as like a 49ers fan? Like knowing we have football this week, just having a little bit more of a loose and carefree Sunday, those things are always very, very enjoyable. But again, not having JJ, big concern. Can't run the football, big concern. The stat that I was alluding to is I think they're the first team in like NFL history to have at this point in the season to have 14 passing touchdowns, but 0 rushing touchdowns. When a stat like that pops, usually means the following game they'll probably break through the barrier, right? And get one, maybe a cheap one in this game. But that's a problem. I mean, the 49ers defense is very stout against the run, against the pass. Minnesota's it's gonna be a tall order for them. They're gonna rely on KJ Osborne, Jordan Addison. I think you're gonna see a lot of Hawkinson. Good news for the 49ers is defensively, that's one of the strengths, right? The linebacker crew, Fred Warner, we know he can play coverage. Greenlaw, we know he can keep with his man. So let's see. I think that's going to be the key. Just continue to make the running game a deficit for the Minnesota Vikings. And if you can take number 87 out of the equation, I don't think KJ Osborne, and I don't think Jordan Addison, and I definitely don't think Kirk Cousins in primetime football on Monday night, where he's traditionally struggled, that's not going to be enough to beat the San Francisco 49ers. So I look for the 49ers to get back to their winning ways on Monday evening. I think this game gets harder without having Deebo Samuel, most likely without having Trent Williams, and Christian McCaffrey's the wild card. I don't know. Like, is he on a snap limitation? Does it really come down to a game time decision and he doesn't play? I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, what if he didn't play? Again, the game still gets harder, but this team is still plenty capable of winning that football game in a relatively easy fashion, but it is on the road. It is on Monday night. You are logging miles as a team. It is in a different time zone. That always proves to add an additional layer of difficulty, but I don't think it'll be enough. I think the Niners walk away from this. Something to keep your eye on is, well, first of all, Danielle Hunter up and down that line for the Minnesota Vikings. When you look at things like PFF grades and stuff, he's not rated all that highly as far as defensive ends go, but he's certainly up there in the league lead for sacks if he's not the guy at this point in the season, which he is, right? Tied with TJ Watt. TJ Watt's got one extra game under his belt, 8 sacks. So there you go. He'll be a problem, especially if he finds his way on this, where the ghost of Trent Williams used to be. We'll see how that fares for the San Francisco 49ers. The other thing to keep an eye on, and the reason why I was so adamant about recording this before kickoff. So those who joined live, if you have anything you want to say about this, you have any comments leaning about up against the 49ers Vikings game tomorrow night, this is the spot for it. But I know there's a lot of people upset about Christian McCaffrey playing in this game. I being one of them. Don't think it's necessary. Don't think this win or loss against the Minnesota Vikings at week 7 in the NFL season has a ton to do with your playoff aspirations and your Super Bowl hopes and dreams. It's just another game on the schedule, a game that you want to win. But I'm paying close attention to this evening's games, the Miami Dolphins versus the Philadelphia Eagles. I just have this weird feeling that if the Philadelphia Eagles win this game tonight, Christian McCaffrey is absolutely playing. If they do not, I feel like that's the opportunity that the 49ers might be looking for, saying, okay, we still have a winnable game without him. Maybe we keep that one. If we can win this game, we still have a 1-game lead in the NFC for the number 1 seed at a little less than halfway through the season. I just literally think this is how coaches' minds work. So pay attention to tonight's game. Philadelphia wins, 49ers don't want to go back a game. They just don't. We saw what that looked like last year. If the Eagles are unable to win this evening, I think Christian won't play tomorrow night. And then, as 49er fans, maybe we get what we asked for and resting 23, at least another week. I mean, you're talking about a tear in the oblique. I've never done that. I can't imagine it's comfortable as a running back, especially him whose body is constantly contorting and just taking an absolute beating the way that we run him. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me unless you feel like this game is a must have. And I think the only way it is a must have, and I'm the guy that never tells you that every game is must win in the NFL, but the only way that I feel like this game is a must have W is if Philadelphia wins tonight. So with that being said, that game's about to kick off. I'm going to wrap it up. I think the Niners win. I think realistically, 30-21, something like that, 30-20. I'll go with 30-21. I think will be the final score of this football game. I know the legend of Kirk Cousins struggling in primetime television on Monday night will probably loom large and be a big subject matter for your play-by-play and your announcers for Buck and Aikman. And just remember that watching watching 49er football when Troy Aikman and Joe Buck are the announcers is painful. I get it, guys. The Eli Peyton broadcast is even more painful if you ask me. They just seem to root against. So maybe the talk track will be a little bit more about Kirk Cousins. Either way, I think the 49ers win this. I think it's Victory Tuesday instead of Victory Monday. I think we already have a Victory Monday here just for the mere sense that our team didn't lose or win on Sunday, and we get to do what we need to do on Monday and look forward to, the game that evening. But that wraps us up. Again, I'm Weston. This is Island 49. You can find us temporarily on the We're Talking Football podcast channel on YouTube. Please hit the like, please hit the subscribe, sign up for the notifications. There's going to be more of this every week for you related to the Niners. We'll eventually grow this out, have guests, and then obviously make sure you tune in Tuesday evening when Steph and I gather on her 49K podcast show and we start talking about the 49K player of the week and recap a little bit of the game. But until that time, we sincerely appreciate all your support, and I look forward to watching the game with y'all tomorrow evening.